Welcome back, guys. Protobro here, infamous brother to Mega Bro. Part 2 of the Kingdom Managements tutorial for Crusader Kings 2. In the previous tutorial, I showed you guys how to macro manage your empire or kingdom under pretty much using this section of your overview, top left. In this tutorial, we're going to go with your micro management. So how to micro your kingdom or empire. And specifically, we'll be targeting the county level. So this area down here, bottom left, that's going to be focusing on. So first tab that'll be helpful with regards to microing is your direct vassals. So as you notice here, we are the red, we being actually King William, who is the character we're playing. And then everybody else who falls under us, so again, all here, England, right, is these different vassals here. So the different colors represent the different territories that these individual vassals hold, but they all fall under us. So here, for example, we've got the Duke Morcer of York. He actually controls 4 counties, but he still nevertheless falls under us. All right, so this is important. I'll explain a little bit later. Primarily because in Crusader Kings 2, especially in the feudal side of things, let's see, governments, feudal. And really tribal and so forth, you're only supposed to hold so many counties in your direct control, and at some point you exceed that number, so we're only supposed to have 7. It says here 8, and we have 21, so we need to divvy these out, because otherwise we'll suffer a significant both tax as well as opinion hit on these things. Alright, so we're going to just focus on Winchester for a second here. I'm going to go through this kind of chronologically. First, from left to right. Okay, so this is the county of Winchester, right? So that's the county, it's the county sigil for Winchester. Notice we hold, Ford, for example, but if we click that, different county symbol. So this is first, it'll give you the different county. Alright, and the next one over is the duchy that it falls under. So if we were to click de jure duchies, see this here is light blue, doesn't have a duchy yet because we haven't created it. But here we do have a duchy, so the Duchy of Somerset, alright. And we actually control all 3 counties within this duchy. And then finally the Kingdom of England, which is obviously we're King of England, that falls under that. Now note, if a duchy has not been created yet, then it'll be like here with Devon, where there is no county, no duchy, which means that the county of Devon reports directly to the King of England. This is important because there's really one of 2 ways I think that people play Crusader Kings 2. There's either one approach where you just have a boatload of county vassals, so a bunch of guys like this, where he has 1 county or maybe 2 counties and no duchies, and so you maybe have like 30 or 40 vassals under you. Or you can do the approach which I tend to kind of lean towards, which is just have a handful of powerful dukes under you. I'll explain further later on, but essentially you'd have maybe 7 or 8 vassals, all of whom are dukes, but you only have 7 or 8 people to keep happy as opposed to 40. Now people would say, well, 40 is better because they're all only 1 county vassals, and so they don't have the same kind of power that they might have as a duke like this guy up here who has 4 territories. I acknowledge that, but that's where your politics and your diplomacy come into play, I think, in terms of managing your kingdom. But right now there is no duchy here, right? So it's just county straight to king. Whereas Winchester, there is a county here, Duchy of Somerset, and we actually hold this duchy here. So we are the duke and the king of this area. Unlike up here, who he is the Duke of Lancaster, he holds that duchy, right? Now notice here how there's different faces, whereas there's the Duke of Morcer, but then you've got these different faces. These are basically the equivalent. This guy, like this guy here, he's a county vassal. These guys are county vassals, but they report to the Duke, not to us. And how can you tell? Because there's the Duchy of Northumbria, and we do not hold it. He does. So this is where the tiered system comes into play, right? This is where I'm saying that's why I like to do dukes, but we don't have to worry about what this guy thinks of us, because he doesn't report directly to the king. He reports directly to the duke. So the duke has to worry about him. The duke has to worry about him. All we have to worry about is the duke. So the duke doesn't like us, which he doesn't. He's got nervous niggas. That's a problem for us, right? And so that may play into what does his vassals think of him in terms of how much support he might get if he were to create some problems. But really, in a nutshell, right, if you have a duke who oversees several different counts, then instead of having to worry about 3 of these guys, we only have to worry about 1, right? And then when we call to him for taxes or for arms, he deals with the management of these guys, calling up troops. We don't. All right, so that's kind of the first thing to really hammer away here in terms of this system up here. Notice up here, make capital. So you can always make any territory that you hold your capital. So again, any of these territories here, we can make our capital. Currently, it's Middlesex. The capital is where your court meets, pretty much, right? Where these guys meet. So that, and then also you get some tax benefits, and then technology benefits we talked about in the last episode. All this stuff here focuses pretty heavily on your capital and then moves outward. All right. We just talked about your Kingdom of England, right? So if you were to click on these, so for example, if I was to click on Winchester, click on the county of Winchester, and notice here we have claimants, so it'll tell you who's a claim to the throne. So if we went to the King of England, for example, we go claimants, this will tell us who has a claim to the Kingdom of England, which is a big deal, right? Because look, King of Denmark, he technically go to war with us, claiming as a basically go to war to claim the crown of England, right? There's various ways to accomplish getting a claim. We'll talk about that more in the army and expanding your kingdom tutorial later. Just be aware for now that you can click any one of these sigils and it'll tell you claim it, make primary, all that sort of thing. Claim it. Then also give you the de jure, right? So it'll tell you, hey, no kidding, if the Kingdom of England has as de jure, basically anything that should be within the Kingdom of England is this. That's important, right? Because this is not held by us right now. It's held by Scotland, but it's part of the de jure area of England, which we'll talk about in a future episode why it's important. Alright, so that's that tab. Obviously the face we talked about briefly. This is the person who controls or oversees this county. Right now it's us. Here is the capital of that particular county. Now, most counties are going to be castles, okay? And the advantage to castles is couple. It's kind of your jack of all trades, so to speak, right? You get most of your levies from here, most of your garrison from here, which is different than here, where this is a church holding. You only get 423 levy and fewer garrison. Now, if you're very favorable with the church, you're either a heresy or have a really high reputation to bishops, you might actually be able to exceed the levies that are provided to you than at a castle. So just be aware of that. The big difference though is the garrison, right? And the ability to withhold sieges. This is going to be much better than a church. And then also these two sigils here. So now notice right now they're currently the same, right? Notice he is Count Baldwin. He is in the castle capital here. But then notice down here, these are different. That's because these are his this is his bishop, and this is his mayor. So they're barons basically, right? So the tier system goes barons down at the bottom, counts, then dukes, and then king, and then emperor, right? So these guys are barons right here. Sometimes you can have a baron who actually controls a capital as well, so he has 2 holdings. Most of the time you're going to see something very similar to this though. We have the count who's in control of the capital, and then you have 2 barons below him. So like with us, these 2 are 2 of our vassals because we hold this capital county. As you can see, here's our sigil, King of England, right? Notice here he has King of England here. That just means that he falls under the Kingdom of England. He's a count to the King of England. Since we own this, we have both sigils here, right? Here is some of the bonuses or the negative modifiers associated with that specific county. So here we have British trade and Atlantic trade. Why do we have these? Because we're on a trade route. So if you go to trade, notice we have stuff coming in and out of there, right? That's important to know for right here because on this tab right here, the extended province view, which you may not have if you don't have Reaper's Due. I want to say this came out with Reaper's Due. But it'll give you an idea of what the landscape looks like instead of just hovering over it. See terrain, plains. You can look here. You can build a hospital for 100 coin. You can build a fort for free, or you can build a trade post. Now, notice there it says is not over trade post limit, which is 0 of 3. We can have 3 trade ports currently in our kingdom. You're obviously going to want to build those in high trade areas. So, for example, here Winchester, major trade route, right? So we'd probably want to build that here to increase the overall income, which is my next point to make, which is right here. So we have 13.6 total county tax out of 37 possible. This is, see this 13.6? This is the total amount that can be raided by your enemy before they get to the castle gates. Okay, that's what this meter here is. So the better your castles are, the better your fortifications and all that stuff are here, the higher up this meter gets. And what this is supposed to represent is basically your castle walls. So right now we have 13.6 total taxable income that's on outside of our gates here. So if we are raided or sieged, this will go down, and that's the amount of money that's being raided or sieged. Then the only way that they can get past this here is if they have more troops than what's in your garrison. And then this will go down further until it's 0, which means you have no more money to be taken there. All right. But again, this total number here is modified by a variety of things: technology, trade ports, whether you have a steward in the province, those sort of things. Again here, right, this is just kind of, again, your de jure information without having to actually click it and look. So it's de jure, it means it falls historically within the Kingdom of England. So if France took Winchester, this would still say England, because that just means that the Kingdom of England is under which this falls in. That means you'd have a casus bellum to wage war against the French, and then your de jure duchy. Okay, culture Anglo-Saxon, religion Catholic, supply. This basically means the number of troops that you can have in this county before you start suffering attrition, which means losing troops over time just by nature of being there. So if we had 26,000 troops here, we would suffer attrition until we fell below 25,000. And then revolt risk, the likelihood that a rebellion will rise up against you. These are our tech numbers. So this is the tech numbers within this county. And so this just gives you, obviously here, right? So if we were to raise troops in this county, these are the bonuses that we would be provided for the troops that were raised in Winchester. These are the bonuses that this county gets for purposes of town infrastructure, church infrastructure, improved keeps, all that sort of thing. And then finally, your culture advances. All right. These are extra building holdings you can build stuff in. So you can build another castle, which means that you'd have a baron, either yourself or a baron, who would oversee this castle, which means more troops that can be raised in this particular county. A city, which is typically the lowest level of troops lowest number of troops that would be provided from this particular holding, but the maximum amount of tax or money that you would get from trade or from tax for the city. And then temple, again, if you're going for like a piety, religious type playthrough, like I'm going to do with my heresy playthrough, you want lots of temples, because you're going to get most of your money from the church, as well as troops. Okay, final thing I want to show you on this particular area here is how to change your county holding. So what I mean by that is, say you want to have a church holding here instead of your castle, right? How do we do that? So notice we own this county here in Winchester, and we want to turn this into a church holding for various reasons that I'll explain in a later video. Then I can select this guy. So he currently this bishop currently has a church. So first you have to have a bishop, a baron who's a bishop, and then we click him, right click him, grant him landed title, and then we're going to give him, why is he over there? Oh, he must have two. Oh, look at that. He's got two churches. Alright, well now he's about to have 3. Grant landed title. We're going to give him Winchester. Boom. Boom. Alright. So he, now, look at that. County capital. It's a church. Now your piety goes up for doing that. Your relation with all the bishops, with the Pope, goes up by doing this. And then what it does do is opens up the kind of duchy. Instead of a duchy, it's a... God, what's it called? I forget what it's called. But it's basically the equivalent to a duchy, but it's multiple church holdings held under, multiple counties. Now, if I wanted this to be, say this is a trade port, right? So maybe I want this to instead to be a money-making county, like say Norfolk here. Maybe what I would do is I'd go here and I'd build a trade post, and then on top of that, which I'm not sure why I can't. Oh, probably because it's not. County's not coastal. Ah, we don't own that county, that's why. So say here, we want to do that here, right? Anyways. If we want to make this a city, we do the same thing. We click the Baron, we give them the county here, the county of Dorset, and then become a city county capital, which means that this place would make more money than it would be otherwise. So if we're making 36, 13, 5, let's just do that here. Wait, how much was it? 36.5. Okay. 36.5. Okay, so now notice here first he's a vassal now. We don't own this. Notice it's gone down 2 because first we gave Winchester to this bishop. And which means he's where's he at? And actually I think he falls under, yeah. Alright. So we've given away 2 now, so we're down to 19. And then notice here, this is gonna go up. As far as tax. Base tax 14. I want to say it was a little bit lower than that. So that's how you do that. That's how you adjust those things. That's all I'm going to show you on there. Now let's talk about, okay, management. How do we manage our vassals? So say we want to get this down even further, right? So want to keep, let's create a duchy. Okay, so we got 19 holdings. Notice here you can use SERP, which I'll talk about in a second, but titles that can be created. So we can create a couple different duchies. We can create the Duchy of Cornwall, the Duchy of East Anglia, or the Duchy of Oxford. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to do Oxford. Okay. So we've got, let's see, Berkshire and we've got Oxford. So we're going to give Berkshire to a vassal, which you can do it any kind of different way. I'm not going to go into strategy here. We're just going to pick some people. Okay. We're gonna give you Oxford, and you can give anybody a county, right? So it's really kind of however you want to do it. And then we're gonna give you, what is this, Berkshire? Okay. Okay, so we gave away 2 more territories, so we're down to 17, and then on top of that, we're going to create the Duchy of Oxford. So by doing that, you can either do title created, which usually will pop up here, but if you've taken it off, say you've taken this off here, and we can't use that as a quick link now, what we can do is we can still go here, click de jure, and then here's your Duchy of Oxford, right? And then you click it, and then we can create it. So notice there, you need to control 51% of its de jure counties, which we do because there's only 2 counties in this duchy. So we're going to create it. Alright, so now currently, so we've created it, right? But we the King of England, created the duchy, so now we control it. We own it, right? It's somewhere in this big pile of everything. What this should look like when we're done is a king, 2 duchies, and then 7 counties or something like that. But so let's see, Duchy of Oxford, right? So there's Duchy of Oxford. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, hey bro, we're gonna make you the Duke of Oxford. So now what we do is again we click that character who's within the duchy. Now it doesn't have to be someone within the counties or within the duchy, right? It can be anybody. We can say, hey man, we're gonna make you the Duke of these 2 areas. What this is gonna do though is gonna create some issues, right? Because these 2 guys are gonna be pissed off because they're in the Duchy of Oxford, and so they're gonna want the Duchy of Oxford. And we're gonna. The problem here is that he now has even more power because he's got a county and the Duchy of 2 vassals. Whereas if we were to take one of these guys and make them the Duchy of Oxford, it's still 2 within this duchy, and then maybe just one guy's pissed off, not the other. So again, any way you want to do it, it's however you want to do it. Let's just, for the sakes of this tutorial, we're gonna give him duchy. Now watch what happens to this right here. Boom, it disappears. Okay, his got bigger because now he's a duke. This disappeared because he now reports to him. So remember we were talking about earlier with Devon, how he doesn't have anybody in between? He has a duchy in between him. So now, say he was a guy that was a big problem for us, we don't have to worry about him anymore because he now reports directly to him. Okay, so that's how you that's one way to manage your empire, is to, you can give, what, 10 more counties away to just different counts. So again, we own this one. So again, if we're going to direct vassals, we just created this, right? So now we're split. That's an issue, right? If I were to do this realistically, I would have kept Winchester. I would have kept this county here. I would have kept all these. And then I probably would have kept this one just to kind of link my place up, and then I would have given this stuff away and not ever created this duchy. But again, just for sakes of demonstration, right? So again, if I wanted to give, what is this? Wiltshire away. I think, is there a quick way to do this? I want to say there's a faster way. I usually do it the hard way though. So I want to give away Wiltshire. Alright, son, you're 12, we're going to give you Wiltshire, right? So now... Okay, so we gave our son Wiltshire. There he is. And there he is. Alright, so... And now we're down 16. So that is how you divvy up your empire. Using direct vassal, using the direct vassal icon, creating duchies, creating counts, whatever method you want to use. And that's that. So hopefully that was pretty informative for you guys. In my next video, I'm going to go over specifically the characters. So character traits, all this different stuff relating specifically to the character. This is really... So I covered all this stuff here, and I covered all this stuff down here. But we haven't talked about one of the most important things, which is the character, and the influences that the character's traits have on other characters, and so on and so forth. So that'll be in the next video. And again, if I'm not covering something that you would find very helpful, let me know and I will cover it. If I've covered something too quickly, or I made it too complicated, or just simply didn't make any sense to you, let me know. More than happy to correct it. One final thing I want to point out before we move on here is this little icon here. You never want that, right? So what this means is basically, a king cannot, because it's below him to be a baron, right? So if he's holding a piece of land that's typically held by a baron, that's frowned upon, and so you're going to suffer a tax hit for that, and a opinion hit too. So how do we figure that out? Well, here we're holding a church capital. Well, we're not of the church, right? We're a king. And so therefore we either need to change this to a castle, which we can't just do, right? Or we need to give it away to a bishop, either create a bishop, or create a bishop, put someone else here, so on and so forth. But you want to get rid of these, right? One final thing I want to show you is a really quick way to deal with your baron holdings, is to hover over it, and if you right click, there's this thing called create new vassal, right? So if you conquer a new place through Holy War, for example, what'll happen, Holy War, you'll get all 3 of these places that'll go straight to your own character. Well, your character shouldn't be holding these 2, right? So if you don't have anyone in particularly in mind that you want to assign to your holdings down here, then what you can do is you can right click this and do create new vassal, just create a new vassal. And usually it creates a vassal who, one, doesn't have any family, so you don't have to worry about that. And so you don't have any kind of claims that you have to worry about. Additionally, they're going to have the same religious tolerance as you do. So if you're a heretic, they'll show up as your heretic faith. And then finally, they're gonna like you, right? They're going to be favorable opinion. The one downside is you just don't know who it's going to be, so they might have crappy traits or whatever, right? But it is a quick way to do it. It also gives you more vassals that are under your control. So, all right. And then finally, set crown focus, which is so you get the capital here. But that's pretty easy to figure out. We just let's see, click that. Yep. So notice the crown's focusing up here. Crown focus just means they get a bonus. You want your crown focus to be on your capital typically. So, all right. So I'll see you guys on the flip side. See you in the next video. Hopefully this was informative. And until next time.